When I was 8 years old, back in sweet 2003, my family got our first computer. I spent a lot of time on that machine, mostly playing shitty PC games that I got from cereal boxes. Yes, there was a time when you bought cereal, sometimes it would contain a video game. And cereal, of course, but those games weren't that fun, so one day, as a birthday present, I got 2 PC games, Need for Speed Underground and Mafia City of Lost Heaven. I started up Need for Speed, and the second I've heard rum dum 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 bum
to the window, I'll skid.
I kept playing this game for the next 400 years. I still play it sometimes. Mafia who? My copy of Mafia was lost under piles of console games, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and Milky Way wrappers. Mafia wasn't in my head for the next 20 years. Then the remake came out, so I started thinking about it again. Then last year, I watched The Sopranos for the first time ever, and then the trailer of Mafia: The Old Country came out, so I was like, okay, idiot. It's time. The Mafia trilogy goes on Steam sale very often, so I got all 3 games at one point for like $3. You can't even get a McMuffin for $3. What the fuck kind of times are we living in when you can get 3 10-hour games for less than something that you would wolf down in 10 seconds and all it does is give you explosive diarrhea? But whatever. Mafia Definitive Edition. This game looks good. There's something about games that take place in the early 20th century. When it's done well, it is gorgeous, man. This is why I don't like sci-fi settings in games anymore, because everything is just made up of hexagons, holograms, and chicks with pink side cuts. This shit right here, it is immersive, man. When you drive a car, you have 2 radio channels. Why? Because that's all there was. The music, architecture, the cars, the fashion is just so slick and smooth and elegant that you can't help but wonder how the fuck only 90 years have passed since then. That's 1 grandma ago. Mafia captures this whole style and flair so remarkably well. As if it wasn't enough to create an immersive environment, the characters and their voice acting are just out of this world. These are well-written, interesting people you deal with, but also you're never entirely sure if you can trust them, because sometimes they would look at you sideways for just a hair too long and you're like, huh, is he trying to fuck me? This game is 100% classic mobster cinema, which comes with its cliches. You got your Paulie, your Frankie, your Ralphie, your Luigi, you got your Stromboli. Hey! This game being a cliche is not a bad thing though, because the Italian mobster cliche is probably the best out there. You constantly get reminded of The Godfather, Goodfellas, and The Sopranos. It's like a mix of all those things.
Right between the eyes, huh?
When it comes to gameplay, well, it's fun. It's a pretty good cover shooter with pretty good enemy AI and real nice weight behind your hits and gunshots. I advise you to play this game on its hardest difficulty, which is called Classic. What it does is, it makes the game a bit more immersive and a bit harder, of course, but trust me, it's worth it. On Classic, you gotta be careful, for example, when you're driving, meaning you cannot be speeding, you can't cut people off in traffic, you basically can't be an asshole in public, or the cops will get your ass. The fights are more engaging, the driving gets a bit harder, comparable with GTA 4's driving maybe a bit easier than that. The driving in this game in general is very interesting, because you have this ram mechanic, which you can use during car combat or to get away from cops, to push cars out of your way, you know, but you can also utilize it to get around tight corners a bit more easily. This is a game with a lot of cutscenes, but it is so rewarding to play the game, make progress, and really feel rewarded by those expertly directed cutscenes. The camera work is so good. The facial expressions and mannerisms of the characters, it's cinematic, man. I can't find a better word for it. This game could easily work as a really good mob movie. It actually reminded me of Metal Gear Solid back in the day on the original PlayStation, which was the first really cinematic game that accurately captured that old school Hollywood style. Another thing I love about Mafia Definitive is that it is not too long or too short. Its playtime is around 10 hours, which is precisely the perfect length for it. On top of that, the game is divided in bite-sized chapters, which is my favorite kind of progression design. You can hop in, do 2 or 3 chapters, watch some incredibly well-acted cutscenes, and then turn it off and come back later. Or you could, like myself, just play the whole thing in 2 5-hour sessions, just glued to my screen, enamored by this bombastic, gorgeous-looking, well-playing, immersive blockbuster of a video game. Game's a masterpiece. Go play it.